Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. This is going to be my prediction for the 2022 gubernatorial elections. It is July the 3rd, 2022, so it's one day before the 4th of July. So yeah, it's been a while since I've made a gubernatorial prediction. I think the last time I made it was in May. So yeah, a lot of polls have come out since then. We're gonna get started with the solids. So that is Tennessee, Alabama, South Carolina, Arkansas, and yes, it is going to be Texas. Texas is going to be solid because Abbott is running away with it in a lot of polls, and Beto O'Rourke, he is not doing very well, I think, campaigning. Texas is obviously still a red state, so yeah. Oklahoma, no, not Kansas. Kansas, because it has a Democrat incumbent, it's not going to be solid. Nebraska, South Dakota, Wyoming, uh, Idaho, and then Iowa and Ohio. Yes, Ohio, I believe is going to be Ohio is going to be safe Republican because Mike DeWine, there's Ohio's trending heavily to the right, and there's really Mike DeWine really has no good opponent, really no threatening opponent. So yeah. And then Vermont, they love their liberal Republican governor who's left to Joe Biden on a lot of social issues. He's only like fiscally conservative, and everything else he's very left wing. And then Sununu as well, pretty moderate to liberal Republican governor. Although Sununu supports Trump, and also Florida. Florida is gonna be safe Republican because this is a state that's been shifting heavily to the right, and uh, it's become like ground zero for MAGA. DeSantis, he's been outraising his opponents by millions of dollars. He's completely running away with it in the fundraising. He's raising a lot of money, and there's really no sign to show that there's really no sign that you won't win by like a really big margin. I know there was this one outlier poll that showed Chris leading, I think it's an absolute joke because that just isn't the case. That just we all know that's not accurate at all. DeSantis is very popular in Florida, so yeah. For the safe Democrats, California, obviously, Hawaii, and I'm gonna do Massachusetts as safe because Charlie Baker, the current governor, Republican governor, is retiring, and there's just no one like Jeff Deal. I think he'll still lose by quite a bit. He is conservative in a lot of issues. He's not gonna be able to appeal to Massachusetts liberal voters like Charlie Baker did. Um, and yeah, Massachusetts obviously overall is a very blue state, probably the bluest in the nation. So yeah. Uh, I think that's it for the solids. For the likelies, uh, Colorado is going to be likely blue because I mean, there's no sign to show that Jared Polis isn't going to lose. He has really no good opponent, and Colorado is trending blue. So yeah, Illinois, I don't think Pritzker's going to lose uh, because I mean he just isn't. He's not that popular. He's not well liked. His policies are quite seen, or like people don't like them. But Illinois is a pretty very blue state. The partisan lean, like Chicago, those areas are like a vote blue no matter who. They'll vote for any Democrat as long as it's not a Republican. They'll vote for him, which is why I think Pritzker's going to win by a likely margin, even in a red wave here. I don't think GOP is going to be able to pull off a 2014 upset with Bruce Rayner. Yeah. So New York also Lee Zeldin it's going to be Lee Zeldin versus Kathy Hochul. Uh, New York is obviously has a strong Democrat partisan lean, blue state. I really don't think even if the red wave, New York is gonna vote Republican governor. Uh, and then for Rhode Island, it's gonna be likely instead of solid because recent polls show that are out and show that um, the governor's race is actually going to be closer than usual. And Biden's approval rating in Rhode Island is surprisingly bad. And also, you have Alan Fung, who is actually leading, a Republican, he's leading his opponents in Rhode Island House race. So polls are showing that Rhode Island is going to be closer for the Republicans than usual. For the Republicans, yeah, in Rhode Island, it's going to be closer. Um, and for Connecticut, I'm gonna put that as a tilt. The last in 2018, this was only decided by 3 points. In a blue wave year, it was only decided by 3 points. Democrat only won by 3 points. So this time, I mean, Ned Lamont, his approval rating isn't really that bad. In 2018, it was really bad, but right now, I think he's gained more popularity, which is why I don't think he'll lose. It'll be like really close because of a red wave and that stuff. So yeah, and uh, I forgot to do yeah. For Georgia, it's gonna be likely Republican. I think Kemp is a pretty solid guy for Georgia. I don't think he's going to lose. He beat Abrams in a red wave year. I don't see why he would lose in a no. He beat he beat Stacey Abrams in a blue wave year. I don't see why he would lose in a red wave year. And Stacey Abrams, she's just I think just a wrong type of candidate to run in Georgia in the wrong time. Her issues are gonna like scare away a lot of voters. Uh, her like she's just a hardcore. Her issues are like hardcore liberal. Her policies, her policies are like just hardcore liberal, and they're kind of similar to those policies that you see in like liberal cities like Chicago and California, where you see record homelessness and crime. That's what her policies are usually like related to. Very liberal, very left wing. She is not a good candidate, and she's gonna scare away a lot of voters, moderate voters like that. So I think Georgia is gonna be likely. And also there was a poll that showed that like they were tied. I think that was by Quinnipiac, which is BS. The same poll that showed, oh yeah, Warnock leading Herschel Walker by 10 points, which is also I believe BS. Quinnipiac they're not very accurate at predicting these types of races. They have a history of being off by like a lot, sometimes even 10 points. So yeah. Kansas is going to be likely. They have a Democrat incumbent governor, Laura Kelly, but I think she's going to be doomed because of the strong partisan Republican lean of Kansas. And I mean, Laura Kelly isn't even that conservative of a governor. There's really nothing to show that she'll survive, especially in a red wave. She only won last time because of a controversial Republican candidate. And for Arizona, yeah, I know this is going to surprise a lot of people. Arizona, I believe, is going to be likely Republican because no matter who the Republican nominee is, Lake or Robson or whoever it is, the Democrat nominee, Carrie Lake, in my opinion, is very weak. No appeal and has a lot of problems. Katie Hobbs, she called Trump supporters Nazis. She had like a racist incident where she fired a black staffer, and overall, she's been very controversial, especially for her role in the 2020 election. She's been heavily criticized and hated on, uh, and her policy stances are just very left wing. Many people would say that she's just a plain leftist. That I really don't think Arizona is going to shun Carrie Lake to vote for a leftist like Katie Hobbs. especially in a red wave, because Arizona voters still has more conservative voters than liberal, um, and I mean, like Shirley, I believe she's pretty solid on issues like border and crime, because both Democrats and Republicans both agree that we should have less crime and less and stop people from flooding in the border. Shirley has been very vocal on those issues, and also education issues. Shirley's been pretty vocal on those important policy issues, while Katie Hobbs has not. Uh, and now Alaska's going to be likely are no explanation needed for that. Maine is going to be, in my opinion, tilt Republican because Paul LePage, the former governor, I believe he's pretty solid in that state on a lot of issues, quite populist. Um, it's going to be very narrow because of the red wave. I think it's going to be very narrow. For Maine, it's gonna be very narrow. They use ranked choice voting. This the third party candidate, which is why I think Paul LePage will edge it out by like less than a point, because he's quite decent among decently popular among voters in Maine. Uh, and uh, oh yeah, Maryland. I forgot this one. Maryland, I believe, is going to be lean the under one condition. Um, Maryland is obviously a very blue state. Uh, this is my home state. Maryland does not like Trump, and if Kelly Schultz, who is Larry Hogan's very popular in Maryland. If Kelly Schultz, who is Hogan's pick for the Republican nomination for governor, then it'll probably be lean D. I don't think Schultz has the same popularity that Hogan has to sway enough Democrat voters in Maryland to vote for her. Even in a red wave, I think Maryland's a strong blue and no strong blue establishment anti-Trump state. I think that will make her lose. So if it's Kelly Schultz, I believe it's gonna be Lane D just because of how blue Maryland is. Um, she's not Hogan. But if if and also Schultz, she's quite conservative on most issues. That might turn a lot of voters away. But for a liberal state like Maryland, but for if Dan Cox, who is Trump's pick for the governor, if he's nominated, then this is probably going to be like safe or likely D, because Maryland is not Maryland. Obviously, like I said, but it's not like Trump. Trump lost Maryland by like 33 points in 2020, and obviously, and we know that obviously suggests a pro-Trump candidate is not going to do well, even in a red wave, because for a state like Maryland. Dan Cox, he's pro-Trump, he's MAGA, he hasn't really distanced himself from Trump, he's actually embraced him, and that just is not the candidate that you want to run in Maryland if you want to win. That type of candidate will never win in Maryland, especially at like for a Senate race, definitely no. No Republican will win, but in the governor's race, voters who may cross over, will not vote for a MAGA candidate in Maryland. So, yeah, Dan Cox, he absolutely can. I don't think he's not going to win the general. Uh, so yeah. Um, and in Minnesota is going to be lean D. Tim Walz isn't that unpopular, and Minnesota is just a pretty stubborn state for the Democrats. For New Mexico, I believe it's going to be Tilt R because Mark Ronchetti, who is the front runner for the GOP, he is not that unpopular among New Mexico. He's quite popular there actually. He outperformed Trump heavily in 2020, and uh, I think he can appeal well to New Mexico. It's a state I believe is going to be trending red because the Hispanic voters are shifting to the GOP. So I think Mark Ronchetti will do pretty well, especially with the red wave. And in Nevada, I believe this is going to be lean R. Joe Lombardo, I think he's a pretty solid candidate. Uh, Steve Sisolak isn't really that popular, and voters are probably still mad at him over the lockdown issues and critical race theory and that stuff. So I believe Nevada is just a dead purple state, dead swing state. So in a red wave should be able to flip the governor's seat red by a lean margin. And in Oregon, I believe this is going to be uh, till R. Why? Because Kate Brown, current Democrat governor, even in a blue wave year like 2018, she won by single digits. Uh, Oregon at the governor level is usually pretty close, and so yeah, there's also a third party candidate that will really mess things up for the Democrats. So I live in a red wave year. A Republican uh, would the Republicans will narrowly, very closely flip the Oregon governor's race. So, and I left the three most important states for last. So for Wisconsin, I believe it's gonna go lean R. Betting markets, for some reason they show Tony Evers as favored, which is I think it's false because he really isn't that popular. Like some people say, he isn't that popular. Um, he's just your typical liberal Democrat. He and who I believe he only won by in 2018 in the same ticket. Tammy Baldwin for the Senate won by 11 points. He only won by like 1 point. Um, he's not that strong of a candidate. And in a red wave year, he would be very vulnerable. In a red wave year, he would almost certainly lose, especially with Biden. Biden's approval rating in the Rust Belt is horrible. In Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania is horrible. So yeah. And for Pennsylvania, I believe this is going to be lean R. Some people may dispute this. They say this is wrong. My prediction is wrong for this, but Mastriano, I believe, for like a red wave year, I think his policies will stick well with voters because in a red wave year, voters are gonna repudiate the Democrats, and voters will obviously be looking for conservative politicians and policies. Especially with some people might say that Mastriano is too radical, too far right. I don't think that's true. He's very good on a lot of issues like the economy and inflation, gas prices. That type of stuff. Polls show most voters are blaming Democrats for gas prices and inflation. That type of stuff is going to help the Republicans win over moderate voters, because Mastriano, I mean, he has the entire Republican base behind him, unlike Dr. Oz. Although I think Oz will has the edge in the Senate race as well. Uh, Oz and Mastriano will probably help each other. Mastriano will be able to get the Republican MAGA base, Trump's base, to turn out, and then Oz, who's more moderate, he'll be able to get the moderate voters out. Shapiro, he's not a strong candidate. He barely won in 2020 against a no-name candidate. So yeah, and I mean, the platform he's running on is mostly anti-Trump platform. When we saw in Virginia, the governor's election, that didn't work. So yeah. And in Michigan, this is the one. So we know that the Republicans don't have right now. They don't have a candidate for governor, whereas Democrats already have, Gretchen Whitmer. The Republicans right now, in Michigan are quite like fractured. They're divided. There's really no, like, the front runner James Craig, he dropped out of the race. So that leaves a huge vacuum to fill for the GOP in Michigan. But I believe, like, also one of their candidates got arrested by the FBI for their role in January 6th. So the GOP is quite divided, but I believe with Biden's a horrible approval rating, with gas prices, inflation, the economy, with all that stuff, with the rightward trend of the Rust Belt, and with the polarization of the country, most voters will just vote based on party. That Whitmer is going to be in trouble. Once the GOP finds a candidate, gets their candidate and unifies behind their candidate, I think this will narrowly flip. The governor's seat will narrowly flip for the Republicans by a tight margin, because by November the GOP will have a candidate. They'll unify behind one candidate against the Democrats. It's just right now, like, they're kind of fractured, but I believe by November they will fully back one candidate, one unified candidate. So yeah, this is my prediction for the governor's elections as of July the 3rd, 2022. And that will be it for this video. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave your comments down below, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.